So what I want to do is talk about multi-way if statements. So let me go ahead and create a new Visual Basic program. So I'll say project. This is going to be a Visual Basic program. So I have to go to other languages and select Visual Basic. Maybe you don't. Maybe Visual Basic is at the top. So I'll select Visual Basic, Windows Forms application. This is the CS111 class. And we're going to talk about the multi-way if statement. I'll put the word project over here, and I'll click OK. So as you can see over here on the top, this is the CS111 multi-way if statement project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some items over here. So let me go over here to View and Toolbox. So I can get the toolbox. I don't like the toolbox over here. Let me move it over here. That's better. And I'm going to go to Common Controls. And I'm going to drag and drop a button and a label and also a text box. So you can see I haphazardly place them on the screen because eventually I'm going to be organizing them the way that I want. All right, so let's do this. Let's ask the user to enter a score that they received on their exam. And based on that score that they received on their exam, we're going to give them A, B, C, D, or F. Okay. So over here, I'll just take this label, drag and drop it to the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to go to the Properties panel and press the Auto-Hide push pin so that doesn't go away. And what I'll do is I'll scroll all the way down over here to the text property where it says label, enter your score. So I place enter your score over here. Let me now take this and move it into place, the text box that is. I'll make that a little bit bigger, that's fine. And I'll take this button and I'll make it so it looks something like this. And instead of button 1 for that text property, I'll just say calculate grade. Something like that. Now, if you want to place a horizontal line, you've probably already seen in my previous video lessons, if you want to place a horizontal line here and then I want to place a label below that horizontal line, one of the things that you can do is you can download the Visual Basic Power Packs, or you can just do a little shortcut that I do, which is just simply to display a label. So I'll take a brand new label, I'll move it over here. Now, I want to be able to resize that label, so I'm going to go all the way up over here to auto size and turn that to false. Notice now that I can resize the label like this and also like this. But you'll also notice that I can only make it so tall. For example, if I try to reduce it any more than that, it won't let me get any smaller than that. So I'll have to change that. But first, let me change the back color. So you'll notice over here where it says back color, that's the background color. If I click this drop down, I have 3 different tabs. Now, if I go to the Custom tab, here's the black paint chip. Let me go to back color again. Go to Custom, and here's the red paint chip, and you see the effect that it has. So you can select any one of these, whether it's a system, a web color, or a custom color. I just select the Custom tab, and I'm going to go ahead and select the black paint chip. Okay, so there's my line, but that line's way too thick. See, I can make it thicker, but I can't make it any thinner. So what I have to do is to go to the size property. So I'm going to scroll down, I'm going to go to the size property, and you'll notice that for the height, it's at 10 pixels. Now, a pixel is a fancy word that just simply means picture element. You can think of it as a dot on the screen. And approximately 72 pixels is approximately 1 inch. Okay. Well, let's make this thing much smaller than 10 pixels. Let's see what happens if I type in 2. All right, let me unselect. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good line, a little bit thicker. Let's see what happens if I select 1. So I'm going to touch this, and height of 1 pixel, as you can see over here. That looks pretty nice. I think I'm going to stick with the 1 pixel. You can use whatever one you want. Now, notice the mistake that I always make whenever I try to move this. If I select this and I try to move it, so let me go over here and try to move it. Uh-oh, I'm not moving that. I'm actually changing the height. So let me undo. And you'll notice that if you want to move this thing, you got to go right on top of it, right there. Now I can move this thing. But you know what I usually do? I just use my keyboard. So I use the arrows, and I'll just simply move the arrow up like this. I'm just holding the up arrow, and now I'm going to tap, 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 about right there, say for example, and then move that into place. So you can move it with the mouse, or you can use the arrows, right, if you want refined adjustment. Okay, so if you want a line, that's just nothing more than a label. Now, I think I will place another label down here so that I'll say your score of 100 earns you an A, or earns you a B, or earns you a C, so forth and so on. We want to create some sort of a statement back to the user. So I think I'll just take this label over here and I'll copy and paste it. Once again, I'm going to turn off the auto size property to false, and that allows me to resize just something like this, say for example. I want enough so that I can contain maybe a line or two of a statement that I'm going to be presenting inside of this label. Alright, so one thing I want to do is to make sure that this thing has a border. So over here with the border style, I'll select single, fixed single. Or you can select fixed 3D, whatever you want. Now the text is in the upper left-hand corner. I want that to be centered. So if I scroll down over here to the text align property, you'll see that it says top left. Well, what I want to do is I want to change that to this guy over here where it says middle center. So change this property to middle center, and now you'll see the effect that it has in the text. It moves it to the middle and it's in the center. Now, this thing should not have any text initially. So what I'm going to do is get rid of it by going to the text property, and then I'll just delete all that text in the text property, press enter, and now you can see that this thing is blank. Okay. All right, now I'm going to resize this form, so I'll click one time. I don't want to double click. You remember what happens when you double click. It'll take you into the code area. So I'm going to single click right here in this area so I can make this thing a little bit shorter, something like that. All right, now that I've changed the height of the form, let's say that I want to get rid of the minimize and the maximize button. You don't have to, but if you wanted to, over here you'll see maximize box, minimize box. They are both set to true. So if I double click, false, double click, false. Make the minimize and the maximize box both false, and you can see here that takes away these two boxes over here. So make that false, make that false. Finally, let's change the text property. This says form 1. I think I'm going to change that to grade calculator. So I will scroll down to the text property. It says form 1. Let me get rid of that and type in grade calculator. All right, let me save my work by clicking the Save All button. And now it's time to give names to the various controls that I have here. So let me select the text box at the top. I'm going to go back over here to the top. And the name property says txt box 1. So we're going to change that to txt score. So this guy over here will be txt score. Then I'll go to the button and change that to btn calculate grade. Notice the capital C, notice the capital G. Every new word is to be capitalized. Only the first 3 letters, the Hungarian notation, are supposed to be lowercase, so that's btn calculate grade. Now, do I have to type in btn calculate grade? No, I could have typed in btn calculate. I could have typed in btn calc, btn determine grade. You know, as long as you are descriptive. If you put btn A, I don't know what that does. So you want to be descriptive in your names. Finally, we have this label in the very bottom, so we'll just type in for the name LBL result. Or I could have put LBL output or LBL message, something that describes what this is supposed to do. Let me go ahead and click Save All. We're finished with the graphical user interface, which is what GUI stands for. And so we are now ready to type in the code. So type, or double click rather, on the button, and that'll take you to the code area. So I double click on the code area. I don't need the text box anymore. I'm not going to close it. I'm just going to minimize it by clicking the push pin. Over here I don't need properties. I'm just going to click this push pin to hide it as well. Now the first thing that you should do, let me make the font just a little bit bigger so that you can see this. Let's try 200. I'm going to add some comments. So we'll say declarations, get user input, calculation, and then we'll generate some sort of an output. All right, these are the steps that you take when you create your program. So we have to ask, what variables do we need to declare? To answer that question, go back to your form and see what it is that's going to be input and what's going to be output. So back over here, it looks like the score is going to be input. Well, let me go back over here and say dim score as. Now, the user could enter scores like 95, 85, 77. But they could also enter 85.3 or 77.4. So I better make this thing a double, because if I made it an integer, then I'm limiting the user to only entering whole numbers, and I don't want to do that. It could be that they could enter some sort of a fractional answer. All right, let me go back over here to the design panel. It looks like I'm going to be displaying something to the user. So I think what I'll do is I'll say dim output as string, and I'll assign this to nothing at first. So string is eventually going to be a statement like this. Don't type this, but let me just show you what string is going to be. Let me see here, 97.5 means that you earned an A. I'm going to type a message like that to output. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't know if the user got an A, but if they did, it'll be something like this. Or 87.7 means that you earned a B. Something like that. We want to display a message to the user. So initially, I just leave it blank. Well, let's go ahead and get the user input. So that means that score is going to be, first of all, let me convert to a double whatever is inside of that text box, txt score. I did a lot of pressing of the tab key. Let me show you. txt. Now, at this point, I am not going to type anything else because you can see that txt score is highlighted. So I just simply press tab, and you should get into this habit as well. It'll take away a lot of potential spelling errors. So I press tab. Now this is not all we have to do. We have to indicate what property we are interested in. And we are interested in the text property. So let me translate from Visual Basic to English. Get the text from this text box, convert it into a real number, and assign it into the variable score. Again, notice how I'm reading from right to left. So this is a box. I am going to put this into the box, but first I have to convert it, because what is double? What is score? It's a double. But what is txt? It's a text. It's a string. So I have to convert that to a double and then put this into score. All right. Well, now in the calculation section, I can ask a bunch of if statements. If the score is greater than or equal to 90, then I'll press enter. All right. So we talked about relational operators last time, and so this right here is less than or equal to. This is less than. Greater than rather. This is less than. This is less than or equal to. This is not equal to. So we want to know if this thing is greater than or equal to 90. So in other words, if you got a 90 or above, then the output message is going to be something like this. We want to say like a 98 means that you earned an A. So I don't know what the user got, so I'll say something like this. A, and then what I'll do is I'll concatenate that with whatever the score is. So I'll say score, sorry about that, convert dot to string whatever score is. And then I'll put a space over here. So it'll say 90 something means you earned an A. Something like that. 90 means you earned an A. 91 means you earned an A. 95.773 means you earned an A, so forth and so on. Look, they got greater than or equal to 90. So I just want to make sure that there's a statement that says your score, whatever that happens to be, means that you earned an A. Okay, but you know what's going to happen. Some people are not going to get a 90-something. Some people are going to get an 80-something. So if that's the case, else if space score is greater than or equal to 80, then, and then I'll press enter. So let's say that the user got an 85. Well, 85 is not greater than or equal to 90. So we go to what's called an else if statement. So this section says, I know that you already tested to see if it's greater than 90. That wasn't the case. How about this? Is it greater than or equal to 80? And if that is the case, then I'll do this. Let me just copy and paste this whole thing. So I'll select this, Control C, Control V as in Victor, means you earned a B. Now, I think if I'm going to be grammatically correct, I think I have to put an here, right? An 80%, an 81%, an 82, an 83, an 89, so forth and so on. But grammatically, I should use the word N because the next word starts with a vowel, or the sound of a vowel. So if the score is from 80 and up, less than 90 of course, then it's a B. Okay, how about this? Hey, Professor Solis, what if the user gets a 90? Well, 90 is greater than 80, so I'm not going to give them a B if they got a 90. They should get an A, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's think about this. If the user gets a 90, do you agree that this is true? This first statement is true. So that means all the other statements are false. So if this is true, do we execute any of the other statements? No. So it is true, I set you up, of course, a little bit. It is true that 90 is greater than 80, and we shouldn't give them a B, but that scenario will never even happen. Because if score is greater than or equal to 90, then this is true, this will execute, and everything else beneath it will not execute. It's analogous to you going to your car stereo, you have 5 buttons, you push one, all the others are disabled. Only that one that you pushed is enabled. Here's the one that you pushed. So only this one is enabled, all the else are disabled. Okay. All right, well now let me make life a little bit easier for us. I'm going to select this else if statement and the output statement. I'm going to copy, go over here, press enter, and then paste. So I don't have to do a whole lot of typing. Now I'm going to consider what happens if the score is greater than or equal to 70. Well, let me change this. Instead of the word and, I'll just say 71, 72, 73, 79 will earn a C. Yeah, that's right. Means you earned a C. And then I'll do the same thing again. I'll press enter and I'll paste and I'll make this 60. A 60, 61, 62, 63, so forth and so on, means you earned a D. Okay, if the user did not score high enough for A, B, C, or D, then clearly they have an F. If all of the above is false, then display for sure an F. So here's what I'll do. I'll type else, press enter. Notice I did not press else if. In an if statement like this, you can only have one if statement, here it is. You can only have one else statement, here it is. But you can have multiple else if statements in between. That's how it works out. If your last statement is going to be an else statement, then that means all of the above is false. Well, what do I want to do? I'll take this guy over here, copy, paste it over here. And so that means whatever their grade happens to be. So it could be 50 something. So I could say a 50, a 40, a 30, a 20, a 19, a 10, so forth and so on. Whatever that happens to be means you earned an F. All right. Let me explain the logic here so that you understand. When you have a situation where you have multiple options, see, in the previous lecture we talked about just 2 options. If this is true, do this. Otherwise, do this. It's kind of like you driving your car and you reach a fork in the road and you have to make a decision. Am I going to turn left or am I going to turn right? Here is a multi-way if statement because I have more than just 2 options. In this case, I have 5. So if it's 90, if the score is 90, then I want to display that you got an A. If it's greater than 80, but we know that it has to be less than 90. Otherwise, this would have been true. Then it's a B. How about if I got a 70-something? Is 70-something greater than or equal to 70-something? Yeah, it is. Now, hey, Professor Solis, but how do we know if it's greater than or equal to 80? Well, if it was greater than or equal to 80, this would have been true. So do you notice the descending order? Look at this strategy. Greater than or equal to 90, greater than or equal to 80, greater than or equal to 70, so forth and so on. You see the strategy that I'm using. I am going in descending order because I'm checking for the bigger amount first, then for the next possible value, and then the next possible value, and I'm descending all the way to here. This is saying the following. If everything above is false, then by default, you got an A. Because, I'm sorry, you got an A, you got an F rather. Because if you got something else like an A, B, C, D, that would have been caught in the previous if or else if statements. So now we're ready to display our results, and that means LBL. Notice I'm not doing any more typing. So I'm just going to press Tab on the keyboard. This is the text property, so .text. And I'm going to assign that to whatever output is, which over here is going to be one of these 5 statements. Let me save my work, and now I'm going to run the program, and I'll move it over here so that you can still see the code. And I don't need this guy over here. Don't need that. Don't need that. I'm going to minimize this because I want to show you the code. And let's do something like this. Okay, good. All right, so now here's the code over here. Switch over here to my program. Yeah. Enter a score. Okay, how about 99? A 99 means you earned an A. Ah, nice. How about 90? A 90 means you earned an A. Good. How about 87? An 87 means you earned a B. Yep, that's true. Let me try a couple of other numbers. 82. An 82 means you earned a B. Yep. About 70-something. 73. A 73 means you earned a C. That looks good. How about a 67? A 67 means you earned a D. How about this? What if you got 60 right on the money? A 60 means you earned a D. How about this? What if I got a 59? A 59 means you earned an F. Oh, that should say an F. So I put, I'll have to change that. How about this? 59.999. A 59.999 means you earned an F, right? Because that's less than 60. So you still got an F. So let me just make this one change here. It means you earned an F. Save my work.